I'll ask the first question about the acute fuel shortage in the country. It has affected the public transport as well as the industry. People are suffering. Can you talk about what steps are you taking to address those?
It's a big setback to the economy and caused a lot of hardship to the people. When we came in, the shortage of dollars actually contributed to this situation. We've been taking steps since then, especially to get gas to be available in the next few days. It will come into Sri Lanka. Diesel, furnace. Our issue has been petrol. We have not been able to obtain petrol, the CPC, Petroleum Corporation, and that will take a bit of time. As it stands now, it will be 22nd of July before the next ship comes in. But we've asked the minister and he's trying to get a shipment earlier. There are two issues we face. One has been the premium, okay, that we are prepared to pay and take that loss. The second is, as you know, it's a seller's market at the moment as far as petroleum products are concerned. And the history of Sri Lanka, where in the last few months, where we failed to pay the bills, where ships are kept waiting, sometimes as much as 30 days in the port, has put people off and they prefer, they opt to go for other countries where they are needed. So that's basically been the issue that we are facing at the moment, the shortage of petrol, and how do you overcome that?
Okay, so how long do you think people have to bear with this?
Well, I would say after the first week, you could see the queues for diesel and the need for furnace oil, those queues will reduce. But the queues for petrol will stay on till we get a ship in, I hope, before the 22nd.
You assumed the prime ministership at an unprecedented time. You have been busy in firefighting so far. How do you see, what are you going to do, or when are you going to take steps to rebuild the economy? Like, what is that time frame?
No, we are already working on stabilizing the economy. Until I stabilize the economy, it's not possible to go in for a recovery. So that work is underway. I've been talking to some of the countries, to India, China, Japan, US, UK, EU, on the help needed for Sri Lanka, but mainly the discussions with World Bank and the IMF.
I'll talk about the IMF and other long-term projects. But critics are saying that, the creditors' money, which you have been successfully have got, it is being burnt on buying fuel and other stuff, like emergency stuff. So what do you say to that? What's your plan on that?
What we are doing, we are now buying fuel either on the Indian credit line, or otherwise we are looking at our remittances, the foreign exchange that we are receiving. It's a small amount, but nevertheless sometimes we get over $1 billion, sometimes maybe $1.5 billion. So that's being set aside. The rest of our reserves, or what we got from the creditors, have already been busted, if I should use that term.
Okay. Another crisis is the crisis of food security, and previous government's decision to go organic and burn fertilizer has to do with that, along with the global rise in food inflation in the wake of Ukraine war. If I ask you, what are you doing to address that issue?
We've set up a food security program. The Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Irrigation have also come up with their plans. And it's basically to how do we get over the shortages from now until February. Because we have two cultivation seasons for the year. One is from November till about January. So 2022-23, that was a failure. We had no fertilizer. Second one is the cultivation season that begins about May, June, goes on. It's on now, and there's a shortage of fertilizer there. So we require about 2.4 million metric tons, of which we have about 1.6 million to 7 million. As a result of the shortages that announced, a number of farmers have now taken up to cultivating for home use, even without fertilizer. So it may go up to about 1.8, but nevertheless, we are having a shortage. Now we are looking at how can we meet the shortage and what are the quick growing crops that can also be substituted. Then we are going all out to get sufficient funds so that we could start the next cultivation season, which is basically the long season again starting from about October, November going into January. Once we get fertilizer, we need about 500 to 600 million dollars. Once we get the fertilizer and the seeds and the other chemicals that are necessary, and there's no drought, then we will be self-sufficient in food from 2023 February. But this is the uh, time period which we are worried about. And in any case, we are going in for a cultivation, increase in cultivation, and we're planning this out. We most probably announce in about 2 weeks' time. We are not only looking at this situation, we are contemplating a food crisis, a global food crisis in 2023. So we want to be self-sufficient. There has been a fall in the nutrition standards, so we have to give food to them. Basically, I don't want anyone to starve. So you have to give food free to them. Yes, they've already started some community kitchens in the city of Colombo that can spread. But we are taking steps to ensure that no one goes hungry.
One related question is that when you go for IMF, and you also talked about other donors such as World Bank, they also ask you to go for austerity measures, which means a lot of pain for the working class. Can you talk about what your plans? As you said that you don't want anybody to starve, so there is a dichotomy here because the loans will put you a lot of conditions. How will you balance that, and what are your plans? Can you share some?
It's going to be a difficult time. A lot of people have lost employment. The interim budget seeks to add another 200 billion rupees to the welfare program. So looking at the situation, we'll decide how much more is required for welfare in 2023. Already we've set aside money, and this is an increase of the funds, and I hope that will be sufficient together with the food program we are driving. 2023 is a difficult year, but by 2024 things should pick up. Because my worry is that 2023 is not a good year for growth globally. I think we get affected by what's happening. So
in fact, I'll ask that question. How much the Ukraine war contributed to the crisis here?
Well, it aggravated, and it aggravated fast, especially in regard to fuel and now in regard to food.
Sri Lanka has dangerously low foreign reserve, but traditionally Sri Lanka's foreign reserve has not gone beyond $9 billion, So it has partly also because of its import-oriented economy. What are your vision for a country, for an economy which has more exports, less dependent on foreign things, and what are the industry you're looking at which can be promoted to go with that?
Well, we have to become export-oriented in the economy. No other way out. It's got to become very, very competitive. We have our traditional industries, but we have to go out, think anew. Renewable energy, and with the excess we have, even green ammonia and green hydrogen is possible. There's wide scope for that. Make Sri Lanka a logistics center, so we seek to develop Colombo and Trincomalee. Already Hambantota is developed. Similarly, modernize agriculture, which gives a lot of scope, since the population in India, Bangladesh, all the BIMSTEC countries will be increasing, and there's a need for quality food. Look at the whole range of new fourth industrial revolution technologies, not all of them, you can take some of them.
Yeah.
And niche market manufacturing, I would say.
There was a report that the Quad has proposed that they might organize a donor conference for Sri Lanka. Also, you have been talking about donor conference with India, Japan, and other countries. Can you talk about them? And I'm seeing that China has been missing from the. I'll get to that conversation, but first, can we talk about this donor conference? Which are the countries you're relying on?
I've been talking. Our main players have been basically Japan, India, China. We are talking with all of them, and we are also talking. Japan has expressed an interest originally of having Tokyo as the meeting place. That was the meeting place earlier in 2003. I've been speaking with China too. There's a different approach, but it will be a unique conference. Other players will come in US and all will be there. But of the three main players, only one belongs to the Paris Club. So you will see on one hand the Paris Club, on the other hand the BRICS.
Yeah.
Then the other way around, you will see two members of the Quad and one member of the Belt and Road Initiative. So it will be a geopolitical conference of interest.
Sri Lanka has a lot to decide which side to choose. Um, since you talked about geopolitics, India has, this time around, India has been quite quick in support of Sri Lanka. It has provided aid worth nearly $4 billion. While China has so far been not forthcoming, I would like to know from you whether China is ready to negotiate about the debt restructuring. But China and India has been jostling to play a major role in Sri Lanka, and it seems this time around India has played fast. Do you think that there is a geopolitical shift and India has kind of become a major player?
But India has always been a major player. And as they told us, and it's true, they can't have instability at their doorstep. This is a situation that could have got out of control and impacted on India. People may have gone across to India. So India acted fast, partly because India and Sri Lanka has had long connections. In a crisis, we've tried to help each other. And secondly, they understand within an Indian interest not to have instability. We worked with China. Initially, we got aid from China. Then the government spoke with the Indian government and the money has started coming through.
So China's, I mean, as I would like to know, that you have said before that you want to have a debt restructuring talks with China. China has given recently $2.3 billion to its close ally Pakistan. So far, it hasn't announced any major support. Do you think China is upset with Sri Lanka because Chinese companies' contract were cancelled? Do you see some sort of tension, or is the relationship moving from China to India? What do you see?
Well, relationship is good with both. And I've been in talk with China since I became Prime Minister. Chinese company contracts were cancelled, but then they cancelled contracts with Japanese companies. They cancelled the MCC and they cancelled the agreements with India. So in that, the former government has been even-handed.
You mentioned that you will be approaching Russia for fuel. So one of the options would be Russia. I heard that you will be sending your minister to Russia. Does that show that West has not been forthcoming with the support so far?
No, West has been forthcoming. I mean, basically, we had some Siberian crude coming in the other day. A minister will be visiting Moscow sometime later this week, early next week.
So what do you see? Will the protest kind of change that politics?
No, I think the protesters actually, they're protesting against what the system here. They want a system change. So system change for the economics, yes. The system change for the politics, we have to think. But they don't want the same political system. They don't want the same political leaders. So if you can't respond to it, and it is basically run by young people, so, and this is what they want the future to be. So you have to bring them in, give them platforms to get into politics and make it become the change agents. What we have to do is basically put the economy back in order and think of the future when you can have a export-oriented economy, open up the political system, and then ensure that they will get their turn and that their voices will be heard and that they will be able to shape the future of the country.
So you're planning that UNP will have new faces or new leadership.
Yeah, that's what they all decided. The key people all decided they should have new faces.
So regarding the political reform, since you talked about it, so the proposal you came up that it will cut president's power, but still the president still retains some of the powers, which civil society and many opposition politicians say that it falls short of expectations. Um, so why do you think? I mean, you have also emphasized that parliamentary oversight comes into effect, which checks arbitrary decisions. Uh, but despite those, even you during your prime ministership, Sirisena sacked you. So there is. Do you think uh, an Indian model kind of president, which is totally nominal, no power, should be implemented, which the protesters are demanding?
Well, you got to get people to sit down. I don't think the protesters had very many demands. They just wanted a change. Uh, the people, the groups that won the executive presidency, abolish came up as one solution. But that for them was the alternative to the president leaving.
Hmm.
What they said, one group wanted the president to leave, and this group said, well, we'll abolish the executive presidency. So in a sense, they gave an alternative, and the president took the second alternative. But no, it's not only a question of just abolishing the executive presidency. How do you make parliament strong? I mean, we just can't have a system where the cabinet only runs it. So what I am doing is to open up parliament and try and work together. We had a committee system of government from 1931 to 47. So, okay, let's get halfway there. Where members exchange views, party lines wouldn't matter when you're in committees. So, committees are responsible. We have to remember what is the cabinet. Cabinet is a committee of parliament which runs the government. So, there are other committees. So, that's one change. But it's also how do we accommodate the views, how do you open it out to the young people, the youth. They feel they have been left out by the present system, and that's valid. I think it's a valid point that they have made, and the parties have to open up.
Let's come to the foreign policy, Sri Lanka's foreign policy. It seems, in fact, you have before becoming prime minister, you had said that Sri Lanka has no friends. Rajapaksa's policy has meant that now you have problem with even like close friend China. Uh, he had already antagonized the Western countries, and I must mention just your government has removed the ban on Qatar charity, Qatar, where your minister went for energy deal. And the Islamophobia and those decisions kind of pushed away many energy-rich Muslim countries. So it's been like Sri Lanka has antagonized a lot of countries, and its foreign policy had some issues. Can you talk about those and what are you doing to kind of rectify them?
No, we are reaching out to all the countries. I've been speaking with Japan, with China, with India to make our relationship closer with the West. And we have to start talking with the Middle East countries also. But some of these prohibitions were brought in 2019 as the explosion took place. And I think we've delayed in removing the prohibitions. May have been, I don't know what made the government may have been busy with COVID and other issues. But once within a year, idea was that we'll inquire, and hopefully that given within a year should be able to decide whether to keep the prohibitions or to remove the prohibition.
You're talking about the Qatar charity.
Qatar and there are other charities also.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what happened was the Easter Sunday Commission was appointed. So that postponed the decision further. In between came, I don't know, in between would have been COVID, but it didn't seem to have received the attention it deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking this because, it becomes a problem because Qatar, which is otherwise friendly country to Sri Lanka, where...
Yeah, I realized that. Not only with Qatar, with other Arab countries too.
Yeah. So do you have anything specific to say regarding the matter, the relation with Qatar?
We wanted it restored, and I'm happy that it has taken place.
Okay, so have you got any...
I also asked for I think that will happen, look at the other prohibitions also. But there are a lot of money transactions between that region and here, and some some of the people involved had also taken part. So natural at that time to stop to examine, but I think the process they forgot to, they delayed in lifting the prohibitions in some of these.
So what specific steps are you taking to say because you sent your minister to Qatar
Yeah.
to kind of get the relationship on track?
No, we'll work on the others also. We'll remove the rest of it. You can't have Islamophobia. I have not been for it.